This is Abundantly Clear, a Mallory Nicole podcast designed to help you further understand the concept of abundance and put it into practice to build the business and life of your dreams. We'll be breaking barriers of conditioned belief, the standard rules of marketing, and empowering you to achieve real success, allowing you to make a greater impact and live a fulfilled, purpose-driven life with ease. Welcome to the conversation, the stories, the science, and the synergy of living life abundantly clear. Now, on to today's episode.
Welcome back to this week's episode of Abundantly Clear. And today we have Christopher Scott as our guest. Christopher, so excited that you're here with us today.
Yes, me too. I've been waiting for this.
Christopher has some really amazing stuff that he's going to share with us. He does some really awesome work, and we both, we haven't actually had a chance. Him and I haven't had a chance to really talk about beliefs, but we both know that we root each other on, and we share a lot of the same thoughts and beliefs on how important beliefs really are. So I'm super excited to have you here. Okay, so subconscious beliefs. Christopher, will you tell us what subconscious beliefs are for those listeners that aren't really sure what you're talking about?
Yeah, so those are primarily the beliefs that we form from ages 0 to 7. It's highly influenced by the people who were around at that time, right? So especially our parents, and they have beliefs passed down from their parents, so on and so forth. So we can have a view of the world that's really painted by who are around in that age group. It's also influenced by traumas we may have in those times. It could be traumas later again than 0 to 7, but again, this is the primary belief system. And this is where we get most of our primary beliefs around health, wealth, relationships, spirituality, all that. And it can literally determine the rest of our life and how it goes, unless we go in and find basically what beliefs are running and we change those.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I would love to get your feedback and your thoughts on what the word trauma means, because the way that you and I do work is very, very similar. And what I found is that trauma doesn't necessarily mean something extreme or major happened to you in your life. Although sometimes it does. Like, let's be real here. Sometimes it does. There are a lot of people out there and I had a bunch of trauma that I had to, work through too. There's a lot of people that have struggled with some really, really serious, crazy, traumatic events. But on a measurable scale of trauma, we can't really measure it, because something that happened to one person that might seem super extreme in our lens, something else could have happened to another individual that maybe doesn't seem as extreme. But when we're children, these beliefs get created, and sometimes they can be experienced the same way.
Yeah, so I love that, and that's something I always talk about because it's really important. So typically people are going to think of trauma as like, okay, maybe it's sexual abuse or physical abuse or someone dying or, something much more serious. But sometimes in our brain, right, because it's all about how our brain perceives it, we can think of trauma. Something can be traumatic, like mom gave my brother a popsicle and she didn't give me one, and therefore I'm not important, is how we interpreted it. But really what happened is mom gave your brother the popsicle because he listened and you didn't. But what happened in our brain is that I'm not important, I don't matter, mom loves my brother more than me. And now we have this loop that basically keeps looping throughout our whole life. And now later on, we're going to come into experiences where we're going to prove I don't matter, people like other people better than me, so on and so forth.
Okay, listeners, I hope that you heard what he just said, because that's the truth. Like, that is really the truth. This is how serious our baseline is created by. It can start with something as minuscule as not getting the popsicle. And I see this over and over again with my clients, and I know that you see this with your clients. A lot of their business problems go back to these crazy things that look like popsicle stories.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that's kind of trippy for some people, is they're like, well, I've had a good life. I was raised by a good family. Like, how can these things really be affecting me? But it's interesting when you start going back in, and sometimes I'll remember the stuff, sometimes I won't. It doesn't really matter for the way I do it. And I'm not sure, the way you do it, but probably similar. And, we'll go in and they'll start remembering, oh yeah, that was horrible. And but like in their mind, I had a good childhood, right? So it's kind of like we blanket statement stuff. And again, they didn't have a bad childhood, but there's these specific events that literally can hold rule over the rest of your life. And when it relates to health, for example, since that's my main thing, it's interesting because some of these beliefs, they won't even seem directly related to health. It can be like, I'm scared to be in a relationship, or, I'm scared to be close to someone. And you're thinking, okay, that just means you're going to have problems in relationships. No. It literally starts manifesting as physical symptoms in the body because you're actually not living true to what your heart desires and you're blocking it, which then creates a physical symptom.
Mm-hmm. What do you see as far as clients that you've worked with that have those lives that, in their mind's eye, before they start working with you, or maybe on that first call, they're like, yeah, but I had a really great childhood. What do you see are some of the things that they struggle with and the patterns that show up? Because I know what I see, and I want to explore and see if some of the things that you see are actually the same.
Yeah. So you'll see pretty common things, right? You'll see like a lot of procrastination, like feelings of not good enough, like having to overthink things, right? Like you think about how many ways I can do this and do busy work, but never actually get anything done, like from a action standpoint. They'll usually be especially with health issues, they'll usually be extreme givers.
Yep.
And, never receive or be bad about receiving. Yes.
Do you find that the pressure that they put on themselves is just pretty extreme?
Yeah. So yeah. It's insane. Actually, it's like, so I was talking about this the other day. Some of my clients don't know how to have fun. Like they even told me, I don't even know what it's like to have fun. Like everything's so serious. And part of the healing process for them is actually, they got to go do some fun stuff as part of it. And actually almost like learn how to enjoy life like a kid. Cause it's almost like their childhood in that way was taken from them for some of them, because their parents might've been like, hey, you need to get really good grades. You need to do this. Life is really serious, right? And they never had a chance to really fully experience being a kid. So part of it sometimes is they actually have to let go and let loose and just actually experience what it means to be like a child, even if they're like 40, 50, 60,
I love that. And it's so true. These things are not just derived from people that had really crazy, chaotic, intense childhoods. These things come from wherever. And it's kind of funny because in my mind, I don't have kids. I know that you do, though. I actually just got a chance to meet your one of your children. Do you have multiple kids?
Yeah, I have two. So I have Liam, who's 5, and then I have Callum, he's 6 months now. Yeah. So yeah, pretty fun.
Awesome. And I think about it sometimes, like I said, I'm not a parent, so I don't know how parents think, but I think about the brain and how we kind of grow up in these childhoods and then what we form into it as adults. Do you think that it gives you any ability to release the pressure of being a parent because you know that the child is going to create whatever beliefs they're going to create? Doesn't matter how perfect you are as a parent, because they're experiencing it the way that they're experiencing it. And helping them through that is the biggest part.
Yes. So yes, perfect. So it's like, yeah, I make mistakes all the time and I know this stuff, right? Like I know how influential it is. But what's really cool is even my 5-year-old, the reasoning is higher, but it's not highest in the list yet. But you have to understand, when you're talking to your kids, as you can still tell them the concepts, and even if they don't consciously understand it, it's going to influence their subconscious, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes my son can get really hurt, even though, my intention wasn't to hurt him, but he just took it a certain way because he perceived it. He saw it in his mind a certain way. And so I'll sit down and explain, hey, that's not how I meant it. This is how it is. And whether he accepts it or not, I'm not too worried about. I just put that thought in his head. And I have other ways of working with the subconscious, but generally for him, that's what I have to do, what I do. Mm-hmm. And, kids at that age, they're very, they absorb everything. So either negative or positive, if their brain's not choosy. So usually they'll take it in and he'll be fine. So yeah, it makes it, people think, well, if you know that much, doesn't it make it worse? I'm like, no, it actually makes it better. Like, cause I understand how it processes and what I can do, and that his beliefs can be changed either now or later. So it's no big deal.
Absolutely. And I think it's such an amazing, powerful thing. You used a really great word there, and that is reason. So the brain, if you're listening to this, here's what he's talking about. The subconscious part of your brain has a baseline of about 95% of why we do what we do every single day. But that part of our brain doesn't have the ability to reason. That's not its purpose. And that's the same part of our brain that stores memories and experiences. And this is why belief work is so powerful, because when we go in and use the conscious part of our brain that does reason and evaluates what's in the subconscious part that doesn't know how to reason, we get to create new beliefs about who we are. And in turn, we're shifting into a whole new state of being and identity.
Yes. That's my favorite part is, I think people get this wrong. They say, when I make this much money, I'll be happier, or I'll be more free to travel, or, I'll do all these things that I want to do when I get to this place. And how often does that happen? Like, never. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest. But when you come from the place of what you just said of being, right? So if I start being the person who makes $1 million a year, let's just say that's my goal, right? Like, if I start being that person now, am I going to be the same person who only makes $100,000 a year? No. But I don't have to wait to make $1 million to do that. If I start becoming that person now, like taking on their feelings, taking on their beliefs, and make it part of me, then guess what? You get to actually, I don't want to say attract, because law of attraction, I'm kind of like not totally jiving with that, how it's currently told.
I'm with you.
But you basically, it's like kind of sit on your pillow and attract now. But it brings it to your experience is probably a better way of saying that. Like, it literally brings it to you because you start taking the actions you need to take from that place of being the person who would do that. Right. So, it seems like a backwards way to do it for people, but it's the way that only way that really works. And the only way that really works very easily is what I like to add to that.
And here we are with another great word, action. Because that is where I get a little tripped up, and I've got some thoughts and feelings on some of the law of attraction stuff too. I don't know about you, but my clients are really big action takers. Like, really big action takers. Even though the baseline of our work that we're doing is belief work, they go and do a whole lot differently in their business after the belief stuff is shifted. Do you experience that with your clients and their relationships with their health and what they're doing, their daily habits and what they're doing throughout the week as well?
Absolutely. So I'll give you like a message I received this morning from a client I worked with for the first time last night. She was feeling better, already super better. She woke up without any pain in her joints, so on and so forth.
After one call.
Yeah, one call. Like, stuff she hasn't been able to do in years. One call. That's what I expect now at this point in my life, just by the way. Like, if I'm not getting fantastic results in one call, I'm like, okay, I need to fix something up here. But even better than that, so it's like, that's the physical, and she's working with me for physical stuff. But the cool part is the next part she said to me. She says, I'm at work and I'm not getting triggered by the things that usually bother me, right? I'm not getting annoyed. I'm not getting angry. I feel like neutral.
That's incredible.
Just no effort. Now, there's that part of it, which, just happens as part of it. And then I think kind of what you're talking to is it's going to start making you take different actions because you actually view the world differently. And this is how I kind of look at, like, people talk about manifestation, like in the energy world. This is how I look at manifestation on a more practical level. It's like your thought combined with emotion plus action equals result, right? So a lot of people think they can say like an affirmation from like Louise Hay or whatever, and all of a sudden they're going to love themselves, but they're just kind of like, I love and accept myself. I love and accept myself. No emotion, no feeling. So that's not doing anything, right? Now they can add emotion to it. That's going to amplify it hugely. But the missing part for most people is then you got to do something about it. Like, you have to take some sort of action. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but the action actually cements like the new like belief or perception of yourself. And basically in my book, cements it in your subconscious. And it's not really about the action. It's just that the action kind of proves to yourself that it's true, if you will.
Absolutely. And I think there's 2 layers of belief. I've been having this conversation a lot, and I'd love your feedback on it. I think there's 2 layers of belief. You know, there's the belief about something that hasn't happened yet, and our ability to create the belief about what possibility looks like. And with that, I think that's where a lot of the deep diving and going into the surface of how we're experiencing the way we're experiencing and looking at the subconscious programming. And then there's also the second part, and that's the proof of belief. After something has happened once, we have a little bit of something to hang on to know that more and more and more can happen from that place. So it's like there's 2 different channels of belief and what it looks like, and the 2 combined is really where, you know, I'll use the word magic here because sometimes it does feel kind of magical. Yeah. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. 100%. And that's the thing. People will describe it, and I'm sure that your clients will describe the same. It feels like magic. It's like, you doing some kind of voodoo over there or whatever? I'm like, no, just really, simple stuff. And that's the thing. It's because we think stuff's like magical and voodoo because we don't understand it, right? That's usually where those words coming in. It comes in because we just can't fathom how something that simple would work. Because I think in life, this is a belief that I've seen come across time and time again, is that like life needs to be hard, or that we need to work really hard to get what we want. And I'm not saying not to do hard work. I believe in hard work, but there's a lot of poor, hardworking people, for example, right? So it's obviously not gonna like be like hard work equals more money. That's not necessarily true. So those are some of the beliefs that people have, that things have to be hard but when you start changing things, you get the new belief that things actually can be easy, and they get to be easy.
That's one of my clients' favorite beliefs to let go of. Right? Because in the entrepreneurial world, and I know that you know this, you see it all the time, we run in the same circles. That's one of the biggest messages. You know, how many times do you hear hustle and grind, hustle and grind, hustle and grind? Like that is what they online marketing tries to teach you, that it has to be hard and you're gonna run yourself into the ground and there's no way out. You know, you opened up the door and you got to be okay that you're gonna have a miserable life. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I'll give you a cool story on that, actually, to kind of demonstrate that. So December, I was away for like 3 weeks, and I work primarily online, so I could still work, but I took about 2 weeks off in that period. And guess what? I was filled with more ease and relaxation than ever. First time I've taken off in actually a long time. And it was actually the highest grossing month financially in my business ever. That's incredible.
Okay. So think about that. I took like 2 weeks off, relaxed more than ever, and yet I did my highest grossing month of my business ever. That's how actually it can be. And it kind of was a reminder for me, because we all need a reminder sometimes, that if you get into this place of like ease and flow and relaxation, and you come from that place with the stuff you do, the things you do actually start working better, right? So you could actually be doing the same things, but when you come from the different state of being, the things like, you know, we can say vibration. I don't really like using those words too much, but like vibration or frequency or whatever, you know.
You sound like you're so skeptical about that, and that's totally okay.
Well, I'm not skeptical. I guess what it is like, how can I say this? It's just what those usually entail for most people is kind of some kind of like woo-woo thing, right? Like,
you want to make sure your audience really understands what it is that you're talking about. When you start using those words, that's when people start to go, oh, here we go.
Here we go with the woo, which it's actually very like, if you actually look from a scientific standpoint, like frequency and vibration, those are real things, right?
So we are on the same page.
Yeah.
Actually, we're completely on the same page, because I don't use those words a whole lot either, because it really does. You sound like you're, I don't know, doing some voodoo witch doctor stuff, but it's
and you know, it's funny because some of the stuff that I do could be termed energy work. Like people call it energy work. I don't describe it as, because here's the thing about how I believe about energy work. I know you've talked about energy stuff before, is everything's technically energy work if you want to get technical. Okay. Like,
of course, because if energy's everything, then it's energy work.
So it's silly to call anything here energy work, right? Like, it's like, no, it's just the work. Like, it's just at the basic level, we're all energy. So it's really silly to label it that, but that's kind of my thought on that.
And I think there's a lot of truth into that, because here's the other thing. A lot of listeners on here are entrepreneurs. And I don't talk about marketing a whole lot on this podcast, but this is a good moment to touch on a little bit of marketing. We need to make sure that our audience understands what it is that we're trying to relay to them. So if we start speaking Japanese and they speak Spanish or they speak English, it's not going to make sense. And it's really, really important for us to hone in and solidify what problem are we solving for our clients. And this is a really great example of this. You and I do really similar work. But if you or I go out and start saying, I can solve every single problem that you have. I can solve every single thing that you've ever encountered in your life. All you need to do is ask for help, and let's get this shifted. Our audience, both of the people that pay attention to the stuff that we put out or resonate with it or take value from it, they're going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? Who do you think you are?
Are you God? Or some kind of whatever? Like, there's no way. And it's funny because, so it's like, your vehicle is primarily business, right? My vehicle is primary health. Yet, it's funny, we're still doing the same thing with people, just from a different angle, right? Like, because I know you mentioned one post about someone's hip pain going on, right?
Yeah, and every now and then I'll add in a little dose of something, but I try and stay really, really clear and keep clarity in what it is that I'm, actually talking about. But to your question, yes.
And that's what happened though. So you're working with someone on a business problem, but the hip pain goes away because the hip pain was related to the business problem, right?
Of course, because the root of the business problem and the hip pain problem are the same problem.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's my favorite part when people see that happening. They're like, how was that connected to that? Because I did a Q&A call for a program that I did recently. And so I gave the recording away after. And some people went on there after. And the Q&A was actually about helping practitioners get more into helping people heal, like helping them heal better and developing their confidence and intuition. But someone came on it, one of my clients. She's not a practitioner, but she just wanted to watch it. She came on it. She watched it. She, at the time, was experiencing leg cramps and foot cramps, right? And she said by the end of it, her leg cramps and foot cramps that had been going on for a week were gone.
Wow.
There was nothing that we talked about that had anything to do with anything like physical health issues, right? It was just about confidence and intuition.
I believe it. I believe it.
And so
there might be some skeptic listeners out there right now, but I get it. I believe it. And here's the thing about this work. You and I wouldn't be where we are, and we wouldn't have the businesses that we had if this stuff was just baloney and phony crap. Well,
this is what I tell people, because there are a lot of skeptics, right? I'm like, let's do this. You get the result, and then we can talk about it then, what you want to talk about. But I'm like, let's just meet at the results, right? Like, if you get a result, what's there really to say? About how it works or why it works or any of that stuff. And so, because every now and again I'll get several skeptical clients, and that's where I meet them at, is always at results.
I mean, that's all we're all really looking for, right? We just want the result.
Exactly. That's
another
what I'm saying.
thing in marketing. People don't really care how you give it to them. They just want the thing that they want.
Exactly. And so it's like, and I've told this to other practitioners too. I'm like, listen, you don't have to worry about the time you spend with the client necessarily or any of that, because those are all technicalities. Because some people in my profession are used to charging, $60 for an hour or whatever, or some kind of hourly fee. And I'm like, listen, people aren't paying you for your time, not really. And you don't want those people anyway who are going to it was 59 minutes, but they paid for 60. So that means you gypped them or whatever, which is a whole other story. But I'm like, if I spend 5 minutes with you and I get you the result, isn't that better than me spending 2 hours with you? Actually, I'm not saying maybe you need more time sometimes, but if it's only 5 minutes, are you really going to complain that your leg feels completely great and it only took 5 minutes?
Why didn't this take longer? I wanted to hang out with you for 3 hours on my Thursday afternoon.
Exactly. I've never had that complaint. I've never had someone, oh man, we were supposed to have 30 minutes, but it only took 5. My life feels perfect, but dang, can we have like 25 more minutes for no reason? Because yeah. And that's the thing. So it's like when you get people results, everything else almost doesn't matter. And we know based on what we do, how much time we generally need with someone. But if it's less or more, it doesn't matter because all we're doing is trying to get them a result. And I think that's probably an important thing for people listening is if we focus more on results and less on like the what I call the silly stuff, like all that like technical mumbo jumbo, how many sessions, how much time, blah, 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 your clients are going to do far better.
I totally agree with that. I couldn't agree more. And I see that, every client's different. So I want to make sure I highlight that. Every client I've ever worked with is coming with a different set of problems. But it's typical to have, a couple sessions and then things in their business are completely changing. They're getting referral relationships that are coming out of nowhere, that feel like they're coming out of nowhere, and the stress is going away, and the income, they've got all these other avenues of income that are opening up that they're like, I don't know where this is coming from. I mean, I know where it's coming from, and I know that a part of them knows where it's coming from. And I always tell my clients, and again, I can't say this for every single person I've worked with, but I like to tell my clients in the beginning, I want it to kind of feel like you didn't really have to do a whole lot. And then stuff in your life just started changing, and there you are.
This is how it works for me generally. Like, so I'd explain this up front to people, especially with the type of work that I do, is sometimes the sessions feel like freaking God's gift to, man kind of thing. Like, oh my gosh, I feel so light and everything's easy. And then other times it feels like literally the rug got pulled out from under you. Right. And this is how it rolls for me is whatever, and this is how I explain it to my clients, whatever experience is happening is perfect, is exactly what needs to happen for you to, we can call it healing from the issue or creating new reality. It's just how your body, brain, subconscious is processing the change. So for example, I had one client, she messaged me, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling more anxiety after our last session than like ever before in my life. I'm like, perfect. Mm-hmm. She's like, what?
What do you mean?
Yeah, like this is horrible. I'm like, oh my gosh. From my perspective, I'm like, this is freaking amazing. You're about to freaking break through some deep crap.
Yes.
And she's like, this is horrible. It's scary because we're scared. We're scared. We're just like, because we've been taught that bad things are bad, right? Like if you feel bad, it's bad. Like you shouldn't feel that. You don't want to feel that. Blah blah blah. Right? Because we basically operate off of like pain and pleasure for the most part. If we want to blanket it. So if I feel physical pain or mental pain or emotional pain, I can feel it bad. I got to like stuff it away. So people freak out when they actually start feeling it fully. So I'm like, what's happening? And this is what was happening for her specifically. It could be different for everyone else. Is she was actually experiencing what she'd been suppressing for years and years and years and years. And so the way I process it with clients is I'm like, listen, I want you to experience it fully. Let yourself actually be okay with it. Don't judge it. Just sit with it, feel it. No, don't be spending all day with it because that's nonsense too. But just take the time to actually feel it. And then I'm like, and then what do you want to basically experience instead? What emotion do you want? Do you want peace? Do you want happiness, joy? And then what new belief do you want to put there? And that's kind of my process I'll do in that scenario is, and then they're fine. And then they feel better than ever.
I love it. I love the way you just explained that because that's the same exact way that I experience, the process with my clients too. We're completely on the same page. And it's so true awesome. That emotions are safe, right? And we're not, we're not really taught that. We really aren't. But just because some ugly comes up doesn't mean that it's not safe. It's just you bringing up the stuff that your body and that your mind, your soul, whatever the word is that you want to, connect to it is trying to work through so that it can get rid of it and move forward.
Yeah. So once people actually fully like reframe that and understand it, like they really start to understand it deeply, then every bad thing, again, I'm putting quotation marks around this, every bad thing that happened now becomes an opportunity, right? So it's like, oh, my partner bailed out at me. Oh, perfect. Maybe that means you can expand and grow more now. And they were just holding you back. Mm-hmm. Right. Or all these clients are starting dropping off. Oh, perfectly. Maybe that means you're moving more into your desired, like true ideal clients now. And everything else is falling away. and this is how I view life, and this is how eventually my clients view life, right? Is like everything's working for you. And the negative emotions, they're not bad. They're just what they are. They're just emotions. Like, happiness is just happiness. Anger is just anger. It's just what we experience. And the only thing that changes what we experience is what we give meaning to, right? So if we're giving a different meaning to it, that can change the experience.
Possibility in everything.
Yep.
I love it. Possibility in everything. And I really think that that's, you hear the word self-mastery gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah. The personal development field is, I don't like the idea of personal development in the typical sense. I don't know how you feel about it. But personal development is saying like, oh, you need to develop yourself personally. But what if you don't need to develop anything? What if you just need to let your actually self out, like your true self out? And there's really nothing to develop. It's all about uncovering and, expanding, if you will.
I think, I think that for me, I think sometimes the personal development world has a tendency to kind of portray it backwards because I think that, moving forward in growth is super important. And I do believe that we are always growing and that, I'm a student just as much as I am helping facilitate the growth for other people and my clients, but I'm still a student. And in order to move forward, we can't really move forward with a clear, open channel unless we go back and look at why we're experiencing things the way that we're experiencing. And that's one of the things where I hear a lot of those words, manifesting and law of attraction, all that kind of stuff. None of that really makes sense to me unless the backwards work, and I use the word backwards, not in terms of like actually taking steps back, but we kind of have to look at why we are currently experiencing today the way that we are.
Yeah. And we can safely say that the majority of what we're doing today is based on past experiences, like for most of us.
Absolutely.
So we're actually living in the past in the present, which is ironic. We
spend more time living in the past and in the future than we do in the present.
Yeah.
By default.
Yep.
That can shift, that can change, but I still catch myself all the time.
Yeah, and part of those aspects, there's always more stuff to like work through, right? And it's like you said, it's an ongoing process. So there's always things we need to change, but it's part of the humanness of our experience, right? Like we're going to like sometimes get caught in the past or in the future or have a bad day, quote unquote, whatever. It's okay. What I tell people and what I do for myself is just allow it to happen. Like be okay with it. Sometimes we can be like, especially in the entrepreneurial world, oh my gosh, I wasted a whole day. Like I really need to do this, that. Like, no, just chill. Start over.
The problem is really the judgment around it. It's not that it happened. It's when we choose to put the energy of judgment into it that we create the problem.
Yeah. Then it's like, then we actually can get stuck, right? It's like, for example, let's just use food as a scenario. Typically it'll be like, I'm on this pristine diet, but then I ate some chocolate chip cookies. You know what? Now I'm going to eat 500 of them because I feel so guilty and I'm a terrible person. So I need to eat 500 all of a sudden, instead of being like, hey, I had some cookies. Okay, great. I'll just do better tomorrow. No big deal.
Absolutely.
And then now you're not falling into like a negative pattern because judgment is actually especially, or, we call it like imposter syndrome, right? Or any kind of form of judgment is one of the biggest things that's bringing people down, especially in the entrepreneurial world. Like, oh, that person's way better than me. How could I ever be that good? Right. Which is often an illusion. We know this, especially when you meet some of these people, you're like, I was making most of that up in my head. Like they're a great person, but there's a human just like me.
And I really do believe that all judgment is self-judgment. I've said that multiple times and it's a hard, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow, but it's true. We're all just mirroring. So all judgment is self-judgment. If we're sitting through Facebook scrolling and looking at everything that everyone else has done and we find that little glimpse inside of us and we're like, oh, I wish I had it that way, or look at what they're doing. And if I could only figure it out, we're just judging ourselves. That's all we're really doing. Yeah.
And I've heard this, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I've heard that, when you admire someone, right, you're actually admiring parts of yourself or possibilities of yourself, right? When you admire some attribute of someone else, because every time from the mirror perspective, right?
I think there's certainly truth to it because it brings light into what we deem about ourselves as possible.
Yeah.
I think there's two components to it, because we can admire people for who they are, and we can admire people for, just the being of them being them. But then I also I'm with you. I do think it gives us a little bit of glimpse into, and I could be that version. There's a version of me that looks like that.
Yep. And there's a version, and then when you think of it like that, instead of like, oh, that person's so much better than me, right? You're like, oh no, I can do that too. Because this is how I look at things. If someone else has done it, you can do it, right? For example, for the longest time, no one could break like the 4-minute mile, right? Like, oh man, it's almost impossible. Someone broke it, then all of a sudden people started breaking records left and right because someone else did it, right? So pretty cool stuff to think about is like a lot of times we're limiting ourselves based on what we're seeing other people do. And can be holding ourselves back in that way.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to that concept of the kind of the way that I look at, like, you have the two belief things. You've done it, and that creates an essence of, I know I've done it, so now I can continue to do it. And then you have the beliefs you've created in your head. And when you see someone doing something, it gives you that belief in your head to know that, oh, this is possible.
Yep.
And then feeding off of that.
Go ahead.
No.
No, and I was gonna say, I think the way I view life is like, if you have the desire in your heart, like or in your soul, again, whatever you want to say, you can go out, you can totally do it. If there's a desire there to do it, you can do it. And one thing that and again, I don't know how you do this, but I, for the most part, don't have people look at the how, right? Because a lot of times we're obsessed with the how.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
Like,
I love that you added this in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like how. That is like one of the most destructive things. I'm not saying to never think about details, right? That's not what I'm saying, but it's the energy that's usually behind the how. And it's like, okay, well, I want to, do this in my business. I want to start doing more programs, blah, blah, but how? And, that usually stops people in their tracks, right? Like,
I think one of the big components in that where people get tripped up is when we start to hone too much into the how, we are super connected to a specific outcome. And when we are super connected to a specific outcome, we create a lot of a huge platform to just trip ourselves up over and over and over again.
Yeah. So one thing I always say to clients is I want you to expect the best results, but also be unattached to them. Which is, they're like, what? How can I expect attach them? I'm like, you'll find out.
I love that.
It seems like a paradox, but it's actually what has to happen for the best results, for the easiest results. I'm not saying you can't. We know people who work themselves to death who make a lot of money, but do you want to do that? Do people listen to this want to do that? I don't think so. And you don't have to.
Nobody really wants to do that. Like nobody really, I truly believe that nobody really, really wants to do that. Their brain might be telling themselves that that's the way they have to do it, but they don't really want to. We don't wake up every day and go, oh my gosh, what can I do to make myself incredibly stressed out? Because that would just feel so good.
You mean everyone doesn't want to be Gary Vaynerchuk to sleep like 5 hours a night or something, or 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, 5.
Oh, we went there.
That hustle. And so here's the thing I believe too. There's a time for, like, what we could call hustle in your business, but it needs to come from a place of, again, like flow and ease and relaxation, which again seems paradoxical, but once you experience it, it makes sense. If you come from that place, then all the hard work, the hustle, the longer hours, actually doesn't even feel like that, right? And you've probably been in that place. It's like, no, I'm doing it because I'm enjoying it, and it's exactly what I want from the inside and where I need to go. Instead of things I think I should do, or the shoulds and needs to and ought tos and all that stuff we get shoved into.
Absolutely. I love hearing this one from my clients. It gets to be easy.
Yes.
Just like that simple little message through Messenger or text. It gets to be easy. And it's true.
Yeah, it does. Like I said, like financially that month was the easiest month ever. And that's how it gets to be. And you can allow it to be that way consistently. It's all about kind of letting go of, again, the past ideas, past beliefs, and stepping into new ones where things get to be easy. You can work hard when you want to, you can rest when you want to, and you can have the business that you want to, you can do the things you want to. And it's actually all up to us. Like we could easily play the victim to economy or circumstances, but I think it's all bullcrap. We can create whatever we want to. So,
Christopher, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing this. I just absolutely love everything that you have to say. And I love how aligned we are in the way that we do our work and the values that we both share. If someone is listening to this and thinks that you might be the person that's supposed to help them with some health issues, how can they reach you?
So if you can reach me on Facebook. Christopher P. Scott is my name on Facebook right now. It's actually hilarious. And then I have I don't really use my Facebook page. I have a group, Mind Body Healing, for health, wealth, and abundance. You can join that. But I actually I work primarily online, Mallory, and I don't have a website yet. I'm doing okay for myself.
I love it. You don't have to have a website. Exactly.
That's another belief, right?
It is.
And so that's how you guys can reach me. Eventually I'll have a website, sure. But again, those are things that don't matter. What matters when you're working with clients, since I know we're talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, is get your clients results. If I could end with anything and focus so much on the results, everything else works out.
Amazing. All right, guys. So if you're looking for health results, reach out to Christopher. He is there to help you. If you are looking for business results, feel free to reach out to me. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in this week. Until next time.
Thanks for listening. As you put these concepts and practices into action, you'll begin to see the benefits of living an abundantly clear life. To connect with Mallory and other high performers, join the Abundantly Clear Entrepreneurs community on Facebook or visit mallory-nicole.com.